My mother-in-law comes first. You are always last. Those were the words that cut through the room before I even had time to sit down. They hovered in the air like something heavy, something meant to land and bruise. For a moment, I could not feel my hands. My chest tightened the way it does when you step into cold water without warning. Jessica kept her eyes fixed on the edge of the dining table, her fingers tracing the wood grain as if following a map she already memorized. Robert stood behind her chair, arms crossed, offering that silent agreement he always reserved for anything that benefited his side of the family. My name is Evelyn Carver. I am 66 years old. I had walked into their house expecting a quiet dinner, maybe time with my grandchildren, maybe warmth. Instead, I was handed a sentence that felt like the end of a chapter I did not know I had been living in. I waited for Jessica to take it back. She did not. She only let out a breath and added softly, "It is just how things are now." Something inside me bent, not snapped, not shattered. Just bent the way an old branch does when the weight has been building for years. I picked up my glass of water, took one slow sip, and set it back down. "Good to know," I said. Robert blinked as if he expected more. Jessica shifted in her seat, uncomfortable with how calm I sounded, but I had no interest in arguing or defending myself. Silence felt steadier than any words I could have found in that moment. Dinner passed in fragments cutlery, small talk, Jessica pretending nothing happened. When it ended, I thanked them and walked out with my coat over my arm, deciding not to look back. The drive home felt longer than usual. My small apartment in Southeast Portland greeted me with its familiar quiet. I locked the door, slipped off my shoes, and sat down at the kitchen table. The words replayed, not as an echo, but as a turning point. Something had shifted, something I could not ignore anymore. And because of that sentence, I knew I needed to revisit everything I had given up to become last. I don't remember when helping my daughter stopped feeling like love and started feeling like obligation. But after that dinner, the memories came back in pieces. Every one of them waited. The morning after Jessica married Robert, she called me in tears. "Mom, the house in Eastmoreland needs a bigger down payment. We're short." I still remember the silence on the line while I stood in my old Selwood kitchen. How short? "About $40,000, she whispered. "Robert's parents already helped a lot. They can't give more." I sold my house a month later. "Mom, you're sure?" she asked as we signed the papers. I smiled at her. "Of course. You two need the space more than I do." That was the first time I pushed myself quietly into the background. Then came the repairs. The roof leaked through the first winter. Robert stood in the doorway, arms folded. "Insurance won't cover it. The deductible is too high." Jessica turned to me with that look, half hopeful, half scared. I wrote a check for $12,000 and told her, "Just pay me back whenever you can." She never did. We never brought it up again. Later, when Jessica was pregnant the first time, she called almost every night. "Mom, can you come over? I can't keep anything down." I'd hold her hair back, rub her back, clean the kitchen, and drive home past midnight. When her second pregnancy nearly put her on bed rest, I moved into their guest room for 6 weeks. Robert joked once, "We should put you on the payroll." Jessica snapped. "Mom doesn't mind. She loves helping." I swallowed whatever I felt at that. By then, the auto pays had already started. The HOA fees, the car insurance, part of the mortgage interest. Little things at first, then bigger things. Hidden behind the convenience of online banking, Jessica never asked why the numbers always balanced. She just believed they did. The years blurred. Grandchildren arrived. I watched them every weekend so Jessica and Robert could recharge. Holidays belonged to his family. I learned to adjust. I told myself it was normal. But sitting at my kitchen table after that dinner, I felt something different. Not anger, not regret, just a quiet realization that somewhere along the way, I stopped being seen at all. And I needed to understand when that shift truly began. I met Lorraine Huxley for the first time at Jessica's engagement dinner. She arrived 10 minutes late, wrapped in a silk shawl that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage back then. She kissed Jessica's cheek, squeezed Robert's arm, and gave me a polite nod that felt more like a dismissal than a greeting. "So you're Evelyn," she said, looking me up and down. "Jessica tells me you're practical." Jessica laughed too quickly. "Mom's great with stretching a budget." I smiled. Even though something in that exchange stung, "I do my best." Lorraine leaned toward Jessica. "Well, dear, once you're part of the Huxley family, you won't need to worry about budgets." That was the first hint. Over the years, the hints piled up at birthdays. Jessica would beam when Lorraine handed over expensive gifts, a designer stroller, a diamond necklace, a weekend at a resort. When I brought handmade blankets or savings bonds, Jessica would thank me, but her eyes always drifted toward whatever Lorraine placed on the table. One afternoon, I arrived early to help Jessica with the kids. Lorraine was already there, perched on the couch like a queen. "Oh," she said, eyebrows lifting. "I told Jessica I'd take the children to the zoo today. I assumed you wouldn't mind." Jessica turned to me. "Mom, Lorraine already bought the tickets." I nodded, of course. "Enjoy." Lorraine smiled, satisfied. "You really don't have to involve yourself so much. Evelyn, the children will be fine," as if my presence was an inconvenience. Another time, when Jessica was stressed about the mortgage, I offered quietly, "I can help with the next payment if you need it." Before Jessica could answer, Lorraine cut in. "We don't take charity. Huxleys manage their own affairs." Jessica flushed. "Mom knows I'm not asking. She's just being Mom." I stepped back, even though I'd been the one keeping their finances steady for years. Each visit, Lorraine's voice grew louder while mine faded. Jessica started quoting her what she'd do, what she'd expect, what she'd never tolerate, and little by little, the gravity in Jessica's life shifted, not toward me, toward the woman who promised prestige, comfort, and a life Jessica never had growing up. And I felt the ground under my feet begin to move. I sat at my kitchen table that night, the same spot where I'd eaten countless quiet dinners since selling my Selwood home. My coat was still draped over the chair. I hadn't even bothered to take off my earrings. I just stared at my laptop screen, the blue glow resting on hands that suddenly felt older than 66. I opened my banking page. The numbers looked familiar at first: balances, transfers, quiet movements I'd made for years. But after Jessica's words at dinner, they didn't feel like numbers anymore. They felt like footprints. Mine, leading everywhere, but back to me. There it was, the monthly HOA payment I'd been covering since their second winter in Eastmoreland, and the auto pay for their car insurance I'd turned on temporarily during Jessica's first pregnancy. Another transfer, $300, marked utilities from last fall, 2 mortgage interest payments from the previous spring, a list of sacrifices, hidden by my own hands. I whispered to the empty room, "What have I done?" My phone buzzed, a text from Jessica. "Thanks for dinner. Sorry if things felt tense. We're just trying to keep boundaries." I didn't answer. Instead, I clicked into account settings. My finger hesitated over the first cancellation button, the memory of Jessica's voice. "My mother-in-law comes first. You're always last," pushed me forward. Cancel, cancel, cancel. The auto-pays disappeared, one by one, a quiet rebellion. I opened another document, my beneficiary list. Jessica's name sat on nearly everything: retirement funds, life insurance, savings. I stared at it until my throat tightened. I clicked edit and added my niece, Laurel, the one person who called just to ask how I was doing. Then I made a new folder on my desktop. For me, I added a note. Start the painting class at Portland State. Buy proper walking shoes. Plan a trip anywhere, even just the coast. There was a knock on my door. My neighbor, Tom, stood in the hallway holding a container of soup. "You all right?" he asked. "Long night," I said. He nodded. Sometimes a long night means something's finally changing. After he left, I sat back down. My hands didn't shake this time. I wasn't plotting revenge. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply drawing a line I should have drawn years ago, and once a line is drawn, something always shifts on the other side of it. By the end of the first week, the shift was obvious. Jessica called one morning while I was lacing my shoes for a walk along Hawthorne. "Mom, can you come watch the kids? Lorraine has a board luncheon and I'm swamped." "I can't today," I said. "I have plans." A silence. Sharp and offended. What plans, she demanded. Just my own. I didn't owe her more than that. I ended the call and stepped outside. The air felt cooler, lighter, as if I'd opened a window in a room I'd been trapped in for years. 2 days later, Lorraine called. "Evelyn," she drawled. "Jessica says you've been unavailable." I could almost hear her smile tightening. "Family depends on consistency. I've been consistent for decades." I said, "I'm just taking some time for myself now." "Well," she replied, "that's inconvenient." I didn't answer. I simply hung up. My mornings changed. I walked every day, letting my legs remember they belonged to me. On Thursday, I tried a senior yoga class in Hawthorne. I wobbled, laughed once, and didn't apologize for it. A woman named Ruth offered me a ride home afterward. We talked like people who once knew themselves. Later that afternoon, Jessica called again. "Mom, you've been acting strange. Are you upset about something?" "No," I said. "I'm just living my life." She exhaled sharply. "Well, your timing is terrible. We're juggling a lot." I didn't bend. Not this time. When I hung up, the apartment was quiet. Not lonely, just mine. The first call came from Jessica. Her voice was thin, stretched tight. "Mom, Robert lost his job." I paused mid-step, laundry basket in my hands. "What happened?" "They're downsizing at the company. His father said it's temporary, but they cut 8 positions today. Robert's was one of them." 8. I could hear the disbelief in her breathing. "I'm sorry," I said. A beat of silence. "Yeah, well, we'll figure it out." But her tone already hinted at something else. Expectation. 2 days later, she called again. "Mom, Lorraine's having some tests done. Insurance won't cover everything." "It's expensive." I waited. Jessica added, "It's been a lot all at once." I murmured something sympathetic, but I didn't offer money. She noticed. On the 3rd day, Robert called directly, something he almost never did. "Evelyn," he said without greeting, "our mortgage payment jumped by nearly $500 this month. Adjustable rate. No warning." "That sounds stressful," I replied. "It is," he said pointedly. "Jessica thinks you might have room to help for a couple months." I let the words settle. Room to help, as if I didn't live in a 1-bedroom apartment with peeling paint while they slept under a roof my money bought. "I can't." I said simply, a beat. Then, sharp, "Can't or won't can't." I repeated. He breathed out, long and irritated. "This family is under pressure right now. I understand," I said, "but I'm not in a position to fix it." He hung up without a goodbye. That evening, Jessica showed up outside my apartment. No warning, no text. She stood at my door, eyes red, mascara smudged. "Mom," her voice broke. "Chloe's tuition is due in 3 weeks. Zachary has art camp. We're drowning." I opened the door but didn't step aside. "I'm sorry," I said gently, "truly, but I can't carry all of you anymore." Her face twisted shock, then anger, then something like fear. "You've always helped," she whispered. as if reminding me of my own role. I know, I said, and that's exactly why I can't now. They arrived together, always a bad sign. Robert stood with his arms folded, jaw tight. Jessica clutched a folder like it held the last hope of their survival. I opened the door just enough for them to step inside. Neither waited for an invitation. "We need to talk," Robert said. His tone wasn't a request. I sat at the small kitchen table. "Then talk." Jessica placed the folder down, pushing it toward me. "These are our expenses. Mortgage, tuition, Lorraine's treatments. Everything's piling up. We've tried everything, cutting expenses, calling the bank, even asking Robert's parents. Nothing's enough." I didn't touch the folder. Instead, I folded my hands. "How much are you asking for?" 8 or 10,000, just to keep everything from collapsing. Robert added, "For our family." Those last 2 words, spoken like a weapon, made something settle inside me. "I can't," I said. Jessica's breath hitched. "Mom, please." "You know we wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious." "You've asked before," I replied calmly. "Just not with words." Robert scoffed. "What's that supposed to mean?" So I looked at Jessica. Straight, unblinking. "I paid the down payment on your house, $200,000. I covered the roof repair, $8,000. I paid the homeowners association fees for 3 years. I paid your insurance gap twice. I bought school clothes, sports equipment. I covered the orthodontist deposit when Chloe was 10. I stayed with the kids every weekend so you two could have your time." Jessica's lips parted, but nothing came out. Robert's face flushed. "That was years ago. Families help each other. Families acknowledge help," I said. "Families don't hide new bills under old gratitude." Jessica sat down slowly, her knees giving out. "Mom, why didn't you tell us you were paying all that?" I almost laughed. "Because you never asked how I was managing. You just assumed I should." Her eyes filled. "I didn't know." "No," I said softly. "You didn't want to know." Robert leaned across the table. "So you're refusing? Even now?" "Yes." Jessica looked between us, shattered by the simplicity of that word. "Mom, we're desperate. I'm sorry," I said. "But you asked who was last, and you answered it yourselves." Silence swelled, heavy and cracking. For the first time, they understood the cost of making me invisible. It started with a bang on my apartment door. 3 hard knocks. The kind that come from panic, not anger. I opened it to find Jessica clutching a stack of letters. Her face pale. Robert hovered behind her like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Mom," she said, already stepping inside. "Everything's gone wrong." Robert threw an envelope onto my kitchen table. "The mortgage is overdue, overdue." "Evelyn, they sent a notice." I kept my voice calm. "I'm sorry to hear that." Jessica's hands shook. "The homeowners association sent a warning. 2 missed payments. 2, I don't understand, those are always covered. They were," I said. "Not anymore." Her head snapped up. "What do you mean, not anymore? I turned off the auto payments 3 weeks ago." Robert blinked, stunned. "You paid the homeowners association fees for the last 3 years? That's thousands," Jessica whispered. I nodded. Jessica opened another envelope. "Mom, the car insurance, our add-on plan, it's suspended. They said the secondary payer stopped." "That was me," I said. "I removed myself." Robert's voice rose. "Why would you do that without telling us?" "Because I'm not responsible for your bills." He stepped closer, eyes tight. "This is ruining us. Our refinance loan got flagged yesterday. They said a financial guarantor pulled out. Was that you too?" "Yes, that loan was tied to your credit," Jessica breathed. "Mom, why didn't you tell me? Because you never asked." She sank into a chair as if her legs gave up. "Everything was stable a month ago. Everything worked. It worked." I corrected gently, because I held it up, quietly. Robert paced like a trapped animal. You should have warned us. You put us in a corner. No, I said. I stepped out of the corner you put me in. Jessica pressed her hands to her face. Mom, we have kids. We have responsibilities. We can't just live without this support. I know, I said softly. And you'll figure it out. She looked up, eyes glassy. Why are you doing this now? Because you told me where I stand. My mother-in-law comes first. You're always last. I heard you. And I adjusted. Robert scoffed. This is revenge. It's reality. I said, you built a life on the assumption that I'd carry the invisible weight. I'm simply putting it down. Jessica whispered. We can't afford this house without you. Then you'll make choices. I replied. Just like I had to. Robert stopped pacing. So that's it. You're cutting us off. I'm giving you back your life, I said. Your money, your decisions, your consequences. Jessica's voice cracked. What are we supposed to do? Live on the choices you made. The room fell silent. No shouting, no accusations, just the slow, dawning realization that their entire world had been balanced on the shoulders they mistook for furniture. And for the first time, they were standing on their own floor. Within a month, the inevitable happened. They moved out. A 2-story house in a gated neighborhood became a small rental on the edge of Milwaukee. Jessica texted me the address with no explanation. I didn't ask for one. A week later, Lorraine called. Her voice was thin, almost careful. Evelyn, I misjudged you, she said. I thought you'd always absorb things. I know, I replied, but I can't anymore. She exhaled slowly. I'm sorry. It wasn't much, but it was more than I ever expected. 2 days after that, a message from Jessica appeared on my phone. Mom, I'm trying to understand everything. I'm sorry for how I spoke to you. I was overwhelmed and scared. I hope someday we can talk without hurting each other. I sat with the words for a long time before replying. I care about you. I always will, but things have to be different now. I won't go back to how it was. She wrote back. Okay, I'll try. It wasn't reconciliation, but it wasn't war either. My own life unfolded in ways I didn't expect. I signed up for a painting class at Portland State University, something I hadn't done since I was 20. My hands were rusty. My lines uneven, but the colors felt like air filling a room I'd kept sealed for years. Most mornings, I walked through Selwood Park, letting the river breeze wash over the parts of me that had been carrying too much. No one needed anything from me. No one was waiting for me to rescue them. One afternoon after class, Ruth from yoga waved me over for coffee. We talked about nothing and everything: books, old heartbreaks, favorite soups. It felt simple, peaceful. Later that evening, I sat at my small kitchen table, paint still on my fingertips. For the first time in decades, my life wasn't measured by what someone else needed. It was mine fully, quietly, finally. If you're still with me in this story, don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe so more people can find these moments of strength too.